hearing you on the phone there, not trying to listen to your conversation, when you were pouring yourself a coffee, made me think about...
My 16-year-old?
I didn't know how old the one was.
It's interesting how she's close in age to my business.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure that there's some Freud in there.
Maybe. Yeah, the business follows the trajectory of my kids.
I'm sure he meant that positively, but I'm taking it negatively. Okay. Questions? Now, what we're going to accomplish from now to the end of the deal, and again, the fact that it's Christmas Eve really has nothing to do with anything other than we're having turkey tonight. Other than that, and I don't know if that's a Christmas Eve deal or not. I really don't. Is it? Well, in the Eastern Bloc countries, what do they eat? I know if you only have 3-year-olds and 3 slats, and you're all starving to death, and you're driving. But the people that have money to eat, what do they eat?
They don't.
They don't.
Well, they do. They're supposed to starve all the day.
No, we have quite big.
You have what?
A lot of food.
Yeah.
Usually it's 12 dishes.
Meals,
12 meals.
You mean the 12th day of Christmas? That kind of bullshit?
No.
12 different dishes. The tradition is, which is all bullshit. But
a lot of presents.
made of fish.
Most, yes, no meat.
There's no turkey as such. You've got a fish.
Yeah, turkey is small.
There's no meat. There's no beef or
No.
because it's too expensive or.
No, it's the cost. It's a Christian tradition, right? The first day of Christmas is meat. After the Jesus was born at night. So
all I know is Catholics didn't used to eat meat on Friday. They didn't used to a long time ago. And that's the only thing that I remember about. I mean.
Well, so that's how it is.
Anyway, we're having turkey. If you don't like it, fuck off. I don't care. But if you don't like it, don't tell Sally. Whatever you do, just smile and it's lovely. Okay, so we're going to. Kim's coming along with a new thumb drive. It's going to have all the business cases. And now I'll just double check to make sure because I want you all working on the same business case at the same time, not the opposite. It normally produces some pretty interesting results. It will produce some pretty interesting results. Now, yes, sir. Go ahead.
I'm sure this will come out. You're going to go through asset sales versus. Are we going?
Yeah. Okay. But the next question was, so I can plan in what are the things that you, not you, Bill, but the group want to accomplish or want me to talk about. That's probably, or want me to not mention, but talk about and explain in some detail. There was something that came up revolving somebody where.
Yeah, revolving loan from Microsoft.
Okay, well, let me cover that right now. Okay. There's 100 things like Microsoft provided $2 billion revolving line of credit, or what do they call it? Revolving.
Line of credit
to Dell when Dell went private. So what's that mean? And KKR dropped out. KKR dropped out because they deemed it was too risky because the market had dropped 9% or something. Okay. A revolving line of credit means, remember we were talking about overdrafts. In Europe, they call them overdrafts. In America, they call them lines of credit. Same thing. What it is the bank sets up a facility, but you have to pay for, Bill, without using, Bill. So you're going to pay for something you may never get.
I have to pay it down every year.
Oh, well, that's a different kind. You got a chicken shit one. Okay, you got the lowest form. Okay. But so they'll set up a line of credit, an overdraft, In this particular case, it was $2 billion, which is a lot of money. And somebody paid a fee for that. And if it was just 1%, what's that, 20 million? Yeah, so somebody paid 20 million for something they may never use. But it's not in the bank account where you can look at the numbers. It's, in this particular case, Microsoft guaranteed it, and they, with their balance sheet, they probably didn't it was just a signature. But when you guarantee an overdraft line, somebody normally has to put up money. Now, the bank will have had to set it aside in the reserves, that $2 billion that Dale may use someday. Now, our kind of overdrafts are 50 grand or 300 grand. I mean, nobody's setting aside anything really. It's, but for big numbers, they will set aside to make sure that when push comes to shove and everybody runs on the bank, that there's $2 billion to give to Dale. So, but it will be something that will be replenished as needed. So let's say Dale wants to use 50 million of the 2 billion. They will draw it down and they will pay another fee. This time you're paying a fee for getting the money. And then they may pay it back. And then they may draw it down $1 billion. And then they may or may not pay it back. Now, the kind of overdraft you have, if you have an overdraft that you have to run it, you have to use it by the end of the year, right? They want you to draw it down, but you pay a fee when you draw it down, right? Okay. So in his particular case, they actually want him to draw it down. They may or may not want this $2 billion revolving loan to be drawn down or not. But they charge you a fee when you sign up to get it, when they guarantee it, or when they commit to it. They charge you a fee when you use it, and they charge you a fee when you pay it off. Which seems bullshit, especially if you never use it. They never use it. Now, I've seen overdrafts where you just go from this overdraft, you draw it down like you got, Bill, and you pay off using overdraft money in overdraft. Again, you should have, roughly speaking, 10% of your yearly turnover in overdraft. 10%. Yeah, even if you're full of loans. That's like we're full of shit, the same thing, full of loans. Now, when you start, to answer your question that you're already haven't even thought of asking me yet, that if you do $1 million in revenue in day one, and you put down in your business plan, which you shouldn't have, you're going to do $1 million, you can't ask, or you can ask, but you won't get, you're not going to get an overdraft based on your projected revenues. You get an overdraft on what your historical revenues are. Historical revenues. Historical. Past. You really did it. You really stole the money. It's not you were going to steal the money, this is you stole the money. You actually took the money.
Otherwise, it's just a loan then.
Yeah. But you should always have an overdraft because you never know what you don't know. I mean, you never know when you're going to need the money. I always like to have overdraft facilities because there may be a short-term acquisition that just pops up. Like a couple of you have told me, this just popped up before I got here, and so and you can somehow you can put the money together based on your overdraft and.
That makes a question. Do some deals require you to put a deposit, like $1,000 or $10,000 or $50,000 or $100,000 down to show?
Oh, good faith. Oh, God. That's another part of the nomenclature. Good faith deposit. That's okay. Those are from the 60s, the 50s, 80s. If you have to put good faith deposit down next, there's, if your board isn't enough of a good faith deposit, if the banks that you've interviewed that have told you, Omar, that this is aren't enough, then give them that as a good faith deposit. You're going to get one, just that one. No, so, but there's a number of things like that are just phrases, and some phrases have just been memorialized wrongfully. Okay, so getting back, so what things you want to make sure that I cover before you leave so I can weave them in? Yes, Omar. Oh, SPACs. Now, for those of you that were looking at my slides, I'm surprised the girl with the tits isn't up again. Remember the fourth slide I put up there, blind pools are back again. And I said this is an article, which we're not going to go, that says that basically Dan's wrong again, that there are blind pools and they're called SPACs. And they're special purpose something. And basically what a SPAC is, that they used to have back in days gone by, they came back about 5, 6, 7 years ago, again, whereby based on your team, your management team, in our words, our dream team, the bank will give you a blind pool, not give you, make accessible to you a blind pool of money, 5, 10, 50, 100, 200 million, whatever the number is. There's a couple of things that are different though. The board has to put some portion of the money in themselves. Normally it's 10%, but you can normally borrow that 10%. You don't even have to come up with the money. They won't tell you that, believe me. So, and they give you 2 years to spend it. If you don't spend it in 2 years, you got to give it back. You got to give it back. And normally, we used to look for SPAC disposition of cash that were in the last 6 months of their SPAC period, because then they normally make the poorest investments because they want to get the money out the door. You know, you should be able to figure out in 15, 18 months what you're going to spend the money on. And you'll pay a fee for that too. Whether they set up the SPAC, you'll pay a fee, and when you draw it down. And there's additional fees. I'm just mentioning the generic fees that most people charge. Some of the really boutique, esoteric investment banks charge all kind of other fees. For stuff that you wouldn't even believe. But normally, the more fees, the higher the risk they associate with the deal. I told the guy, well, why don't you just charge us 15% up front and forget about this shit and let's not go through all these machinations. Because that's, the fees are going to be between 8 and 15%. 8 and 15. So just imagine if you're paying Goldman Sachs $10 million and you've only got a $40 million deal, and some people will pay it. In some cases, I'd pay it. Because Goldman Sachs' name means 100% it's going to get done. Not maybe if interest rates go up, interest rates go down, there's a tsunami, the world ends, it's going to get done. And a lot of times it's worth to pay that kind of highway robbery, in my opinion, to make sure the deal gets done. And once you do a deal with Goldman Sachs, I mean, I won't say your career is in like Flynn, but I mean, they give a lot of credit to Goldman Sachs in their due diligence process, etc. And so they call them the big bulge investment banks. The big bulge on the top, the ones at the top of the tombstones. Goldman Sachs, J.P. Morgan, Morgan Stanley, Citibank, Bank of America, Wells Fargo. Those are the big bulge. You might throw ING and Deutsche Bank in there. But those are the big bulge guys. Main, first tier. Then the second tier. I mean, if the fifth tier is going to finance our deal, we don't care. But if you have a choice, then you want to go with the big bulge guys. Because when the big bulge guys tell you it's done, when the senior managing director of Goldman Sachs says the deal's done, then they mean the deal's done. When a guy at Arizona State Bank tells you the deal's done, you better have a backup finance, because it may or may not get done. You had Bill.
So when you go to buy or sell a business, it's an example of a $10 million business. You have an agreement for $10 million sale, and you think you're depositing $10 million in your pocket. You got taxes, and you got 8 to 15% fees for advisors. That's what you're saying. You got to lay in 8 to 15% all in.
Okay, you're going to buy this company for $10 million. Okay, so you've got the finance together to pay this guy. Let's just make it simple: $10 million up front. Okay, so what fees are associated with that $10 million? you're going to have to raise 11.5, 12 million. They talk in terms of net, 10 million net. That net is to the seller. It's a gross figure to you, and it's going to be more than 10. Yeah, exactly. And it may be more. It may be 20%. Some of the Rufus Doofus banks or financial institutions, their basic fee is 20%. Now remember, if it's 100% finance, it's not like when I say it's monopoly money, it's funny money. No, but if you're not putting up any money, who gives a shit? I mean, really. If Omar doesn't have to put, get the 3 pennies out of his bank account that his daughters and his son are going to go to school and all that bullshit, I mean, who cares? As long as it's finance and it's legit, honest, legal, we're assuming that. But if it's 100% financed, the deal is probably really being 120% financed because it's paying all the fees. But what does it matter? If the numbers pencil out, what does it matter? But a lot of the old-time directors don't look at it that way. It becomes a matter of honor. I don't know what it becomes a matter of, but they won't do that. That's too rich. Yes, sir.
If we talked earlier about refinancing at 120% and using the 20 to pay the extra bits that we need to, but if you can get the 120 up front, as you just said, you don't need to worry about the refinance because you can use that extra percentage.
Oh yeah, well, absolutely. If you can get the extra money that you need for distribution, as we discussed, then you don't have to overfinance at 120. You still may want to overfinance at 120, and if the numbers pencil out good enough, if your asset or this thing that you're buying produces 2, 3, 4 times cash debt service and cash flow, which some of them will, well then, and I'm not telling you to take this lightly or I make it sound like cavalier the way I say it, but I don't mean it that way because I've never gotten in trouble. With all the shit that I've been involved in, I've got a lily white record because even though I make fun and I say I'm going to run to Mexico or South America, that's all a joke. So as long as it's legit, you may get something that's 3 or 4 times more cash flow than you've got. And then what I would do, and what I used to do automatically, because you've got companies in the funnel, and if you feel really good about it, you could bolt on one of them right at the close. Or I've had triple closings. The first deal closes, the ink's not quite dry. The next group of guys is in the next room. Nice to see you, Graham. Say hello to your wife. Yada. Next group, yeah. And I've had triple closings before, but not the same deal, because I've also, when I was young and even more aggressive than I should have been, I had, the guy in the middle decided, no, I don't want it. I want more money. Chinese guy says, I want more money, which happens about 98% of the time anyway, right at the close. I mean, at the close while we're signing the papers. I want more money. In the old days, in Asia, the negotiation started after you signed the final papers. After you sign the final papers, that's when the real negotiation starts. Because they think they've got you on a hook, which they do. Because you already promised all these, and you've got all the banks and everybody, and the delayed fee guys are, like dogs at the trough. On that happy note, goodbye, YouTube. And they really do have you on the hook.